It is not in control anymore. We are.
Bugonia is one of the most interesting films of the year, but the aspect that I found most captivating was its carefully crafted dialogue, written by Will Tracy. Given the main conflict is between a conspiracy theorist and a successful CEO, both characters speak with a lot of certainty, despite their opposing worldviews. And there's a flipping of power dynamics. The abductor Teddy, for the first time in his life, has all the power, whereas his hostage, who's used to being in charge, is now out of control. But it's how Michelle navigates this high-stakes situation that doesn't just keep us interested, but keeps us guessing. Michelle Fuller is successful for a reason. She knows how to communicate to get what she wants and manipulate situations in her favor, to the point she's basically the perfect example of how to conduct yourself in an evolving hostage situation. Now, if you've already seen Bugonia, then you know that the ending basically recontextualizes a lot of the characters' previous interactions. So I'll leave that element out of my analysis before delving into it more later after a spoiler warning. So let's take a deeper look at how Michelle Fuller manipulates everyone throughout Yorgos Lanthimos' Bugonia. First, let's take a look at how Michelle operates in her daily life. When communicating with her assistant about the company's latest policy change that employees can now leave the office at 5:30, she states, "We need to send the message that we have a new culture here now, where people should, yes of course, feel free to leave at 5:30 and be with their families. No one is going to be overworked like in the past. No more unpleasant incidents. But of course it's not compulsory. And obviously if people still have work to do, they should absolutely stay and continue to work. But it's not strictly enforced. Although we still do want to meet quotas. So if we can do that with no pressure, just remembering, we are running a business here. So let your conscience guide you kind of thing. Yeah? Good? Right away, we can see this sort of mystifying corporate doublespeak. Michelle wants the benefit of being seen to encourage her employees to leave at 5:30, but also wants them to be aware that on some level, they will be judged for doing so. If we take it line by line, it opens with, "We need to send the message that we have a new culture here now, where people should, yes of course, feel free to leave at 5:30 and be with their families." This is the optics, the stated goal of the company that's apparently being implemented to look out for their employees' well-being. No one is going to be overworked like in the past. No more unpleasant incidents. Now, this recontextualizes the stated goal as not really being about implementing a healthier work-life balance, but something they need to be seen to be doing due to a PR nightmare after a potentially tragic incident. But of course it's not compulsory, and obviously if people still have work to do, they should absolutely stay and continue to work. Now there's a muddying of waters. You can leave, but you don't have to, and you should really only be leaving if you don't have any more work to do, which is realistically the exact company culture that got them into this mess in the first place. Staff having too much on their plate to leave at 5:30. But she doesn't really want to be saying that, as it undermines the optics she's striving for, so she softens it with, "But it's not strictly enforced, although we still do want to meet quotas." All of this flip-flopping is designed to make this new policy a kind of test. Each worker is responsible for what they choose. And there's this vague, subliminal sort of threat that if you don't choose correctly or they don't meet their targets, they could lose their job. Or at the very least lose out on promotions to those that do go against company policy and choose to work late. She then sums it all up at the end. So if we can do that with no pressure, just remembering, we are running a business here. So let your conscience guide you kind of thing. So basically if anyone in the media asks you about it, state the company line. But when it comes to you and your career, think long and hard about what your work ethic is communicating to your corporate overlords. You are free to choose, but not free from consequence. So be grateful for our offer, but don't even dream about taking advantage of it, or you might be punished. It's up to you, but you're welcome. Then after being kidnapped and having her head shaved, Michelle wakes up and questions her captors, Teddy and Don. Teddy is convinced she's an alien sent here to destroy and enslave the human race, and appears to be so delusional that he believes he had to shave her head, as otherwise she would use her hair to contact her mothership. So it's clear Michelle is not in control of this situation. So to combat this, she now tries to reassert her authority by interrupting Teddy and repeating herself until he stops talking, as that way she's sort of silencing whatever ideas have been motivating his actions up until this point.
Histamine cream to your skin,
Excuse me?
which we will need
Listen
to
to me.
reapply every day for full effectiveness.
Listen to me.
Now, it is clear that Teddy is completely certain about what he's doing, to the extent he's even chemically castrated himself to not suffer from any distractions. So in order to counteract that, Michelle needs to match his certainty and rewire his brain with her version of reality. Here's what she comes out with. Right, here's what's going to happen. And I want to be clear, I'm not threatening you. Or you. But the following is my best guess of how the next 48 hours are likely to transpire. The police and soon thereafter the FBI will begin a statewide manhunt using all of the methods at their disposal, and the combined resources of neighbouring jurisdictions. My company is a key job creator and economic engine of the region. I am crucial. Think of it like you've abducted the governor, but worse. That's the level of bureaucratic urgency you're contending with here. In all humility, I can say that. I'm also a high-profile female corporate executive. Does that add a certain, politicized optics to this? I would say absolutely. I would say that's a tremendous factor for you to consider here. Now, I don't make the rules and I don't enforce anything, and I am not in charge of the situation in this room. You are. But you are not in charge of what is happening out there. And what is happening out there is a rapid cross-coordination of law enforcement and digital media, which is all leading quite inevitably to your imprisonment, and very likely worse. If I can be frank, I'm not privy to what their methods might be under extreme duress, or yours for that matter, but I can assure you that there is no possible scenario where you benefit from this incident, unless you cooperate with me right now and negotiate a deal that's fair and advantageous to us both. Wow. This is a masterclass of persuasion and stake setting. She mixes absolute certainty with these areas of ambiguity that allow her captors to sort of fill in the blanks about how much trouble they're in. Every word is carefully crafted. She protects herself with phrases like, I am not threatening you, or I am not in charge of the situation in this room, so that she appears to be submissive and compliant. But every other word she says is designed to spike fear in the listener, so that she can then reframe herself as the lead negotiator of this situation and effectively put herself back in control. Also notice how she doesn't ask direct questions, because if she said something like, what if the authorities track you down? Have you thought about that? What then? Then that would leave room for Teddy to fill in the blanks in whatever way he wants, or simply conclude they won't, which keeps him in his pre-existing train of thought that got them into this situation to begin with. Instead, she has to counter that with a competing narrative to create fear and doubt. So all of her assertions are framed as not her decision, but a guaranteed reality, detailing what's happening outside of this room as they speak. This gives the impression that the wheels are already in motion, that the walls are closing in, and there's nowhere to run or hide, which should make her captor crumble under the pressure and try to save himself before it's too late. This whole speech sort of works on Don and makes him more doubtful. But Teddy is a true believer, so this manipulative tactic, as impressive as it was, fails to turn the tables. Failing that and realizing Teddy is potentially violent, Michelle now acts compliant, giving corporate AI responses like, I hear where you're coming from, or I'm very sorry, I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot, and I would love to keep the conversation going. Because she intelligently recognizes the only way she has any power is if they're talking. Otherwise, she can't control whatever they're scheming behind her back. Then when he asks her to record a message for her emperor to negotiate her species' withdrawal from planet Earth, naturally she has no idea what she's meant to be recording. So she sort of indulges Teddy like she's entertaining a toddler and just going along with their fantasy. But that doesn't work either, so she has to try another angle, firmly stating that she believes he's in an echo chamber, which every viewer can see is blatantly true. But this is another crafty attempt to pry open his mind and make him question himself. Notice how she even front-loads her statements by raising her status. I feel qualified here because I am a chemist by training, but I also have a psych degree, which is a smart maneuver because while she is physically alone and outnumbered in this room, with this new academic framing, she's now backed by thousands of scientists and professionals, effectively making Teddy the one who's intellectually outnumbered. When that fails, she undermines his grammar, which again aims to make him doubt himself. I mean, if he's wrong about how to pronounce certain words, what else is he wrong about? But this only makes Teddy more aggressive, so she needs to try calming him down. I'm sorry, you're angry. I see that. I even think you have a right to be angry, but we need to have an honest talk in good faith about what is going on here. She's saying all the right words, honest talk, good faith. But Teddy views all of this safe space, politically correct corporate jargon as a way to control and distract him so that they just go round in circles. So realizing that she's running out of options, she asserts the opposite. Don, Teddy, come on, we have options here, we do. Which she says with this encouraging smile to try to persuade them to open their minds back up to other solutions. It's all very tactful, but really she has no other choice than to try to broaden the possibilities of the situation, as she's brutally aware that the current path they're on is leading to nowhere but her demise. But Teddy still won't budge, so if you can't beat him, join him. Realizing her captor is never going to move off his ludicrous idea that she's an alien, she decides to concede that she is one, as that way she can now start negotiating from the other side of the argument, essentially buying her more time. And if they're both on the same wavelength, it makes her less likely to suffer. Well, in theory. But with no other options, it's smart to investigate what happens if you tell him what he wants to hear. Let him be in control and feel right, because then at least the tone will be less adversarial. So when they sit down to dinner together, Michelle is at her most cordial, complimenting the house and asking polite questions about whether or not Teddy has always lived alone. As by this point she's realised that she's actually responsible for his mother falling into a coma after she signed up to her company's medical trial. This is essentially a new angle to try to get Teddy to question his own motivations, as if he just acknowledges that he's angry about what happened to his mother, then he might see that that same anger has inspired this conspiratorial thinking and led him down this path. So if she can somehow break down the source of his motivation rather than the ideas he's convinced of, then the whole house of cards might collapse.
This is not about that.
With all due respect, Teddy, how could this not be about that?
He manages to resist this line of questioning, but talking about his mother only makes him upset. So Michelle keeps pushing her narrative. Teddy, you're right to distrust me. You are. I lost myself somewhere. I became a human being I told myself I would never become. I'm not denying that, but I can help you, Teddy. This is weapons-grade manipulation, as it's so hard to resist. Look at the language she's using. It's conceding, it's apologizing, it's admitting weakness and pleading with him as a fellow human being. Now, if he accepts her framing, which he should instinctively want to, as it's so hard to not accept someone admitting they've done you wrong, as it validates your own pain, then it naturally flows into a sort of, look at us, we're both flawed, we both made mistakes, which equals the playing field and makes everything he's done okay too. It's a way out. If we both admit fault, she can fix it, and then we can all walk away happy, no harm done. But Teddy lashes out, and Michelle ends up in the basement guarded by Don as a police officer talks to Teddy upstairs. Now Don has always been the more easily manipulated of the two, as frankly Teddy is the one controlling him as well. So naturally this is a unique opportunity for Michelle to work her manipulative magic and escape. Here's what she says to him. Don, look at me Don, put the gun down. Look at me, I know you would never hurt me. See how she's now verbally crafting this flattering reality for Don to live in, that he's the good guy who doesn't do violence. This is now a standard he'll unconsciously want to uphold, as it's how all of us would like to imagine ourselves. Thank you, Don. You could have shot me earlier upstairs, but you didn't. How you behaved was honestly heroic. I don't use that word lightly. You have been the only thing stopping him from doing God knows what to me. So even though he's the one who hit her with the gun, rendering her unconscious, she's now casting him as a hero, her protector, which conditions him to view them both as aligned. But you know this is crazy, right? You know this is wrong. I know you know that. I'm just saying, there is a world, Don. There's a world where we help you and your cousin and your aunt, where reparations are paid and a page is turned. All of that can happen for you. Now notice how she's putting words in his mouth and repeating her opinion like it's his, before she dangles the carrot of the mere possibility of a positive outcome for him. After all, a hero deserves his rewards. He manages to resist this, stating that she's the one who's going to get him and Teddy arrested. She replies, no I wouldn't. And if you're right and Teddy gets arrested, it'll all be different for you, Don. It will, if you let me go. A bit of divide and conquer here, separate him from his leader. All he does is drag you deeper and deeper into a pit. He never actually offers you a way out for you. I can do that for you, Don. I want to do that for you. Now she's turning him against Teddy, make him see him as the enemy and her as the teammate. He gets you into trouble, I get you out of it. Later she gets back to the same strategy as the beginning, speaking with absolute certainty. Dawn, they're gonna arrest your cousin, but it's not too late for you. If you let me go right now, everything will work out for you. And even later pushing, if you let me go. Please, Dawn, we don't have much time. They're gonna break in here at any minute and then I won't be able to help you. This piles pressure onto Dawn. The clock is ticking, the walls are closing in, so you don't have much time to make the decision. But in her framing, there's no logic in not making the decision in her favor because Teddy is already about to be punished. That's been framed as a guarantee. It's now just about what's going to happen to you. So be selfish. She's also adopting the language of someone who will be fine no matter what happens next, as the police are already here. This gives the illusion that her concern for Dawn is completely genuine, as it's now a separate issue to her own safety. Now we're about to go into real spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen Bugonia, I encourage you to go watch it first, and you can come back to this later. Ready? Okay. After Don shoots himself, now Michelle is in real danger, as Teddy will assume she brainwashed him and obviously want revenge. So to avoid being killed, now she claims to have a cure that will release Teddy's mother from her coma. As judging by his reaction earlier, that's obviously what he wants the most. She informs him that there's a bottle of antifreeze in her car that's actually the antidote, and if he injects that blue liquid into his mother, she can be saved. This is a truly twisted but genius strategy. She sends Teddy on this impossible mission, assuming he'll get apprehended and arrested for trying to inject a coma patient with antifreeze, which gives Michelle lots of time and opportunity to escape. But after seeing what Teddy has done to his previous victims, something seems to have changed in her. When he unexpectedly returns, she now switches up and asserts confidently that she is an alien and tells him the alleged truth of the planet, detailing an absurd story that includes dinosaurs, Atlantis, thermonuclear war, and evolution. Basically every buzzword that should appeal to an extreme conspiracy theorist. Then claims that her species was only ever trying to save humanity and the planet. This is confusing, but for the viewer still sounds like she's just making something up that she knows Teddy will believe. And by stating it confidently, he'll feel so validated that he was right all along that he becomes totally submissive. As she then promises to bring him to her mothership to negotiate on behalf of the human race, an opportunity that someone as insignificant as Teddy can't help but be seduced by. So she brings him to her office, where she can now be seen by her staff, and concocts this silly story that by getting into her office closet after she types a 58-digit code into a calculator, that he'll then be teleported to her mothership. It's all very amusing, but when he seems nervous, even resistant, she cunningly offers to go first, knowing that someone as paranoid as Teddy will see that as a chance for her to abandon him.
I could go first.
No. I'll go first. I don't want you to escape and just leave me here.
This little gamble pays off, as he becomes even more assertive that he has to be the one to go first to not lose the upper hand, as he also has a bomb strapped to his chest. But as it turns out, for the whole movie, Teddy was right. Michelle really was actually an alien, and her aggressive confession explaining the history of the planet was all true. So all of these negotiations, the corporate jargon, the reasonable disposition, weren't just strategies for a human to escape, they were the psychological weaponry of the Andromedon species that are so effective that they successfully keep the human race under total control. And we now know just how effective they are because for most of the movie, we get swept up by them too. We instinctively dismiss Teddy because his ideas sound ridiculous and he's employing violence to get what he wants, which goes against our moral code. But in hindsight, Michelle was always just trying to get a read on him, wondering how much he knows as a way to determine how much trouble she's in. She gaslights him constantly, working every angle, trying to make him doubt himself just enough so that she can escape. And against all odds, she succeeds. Not just in manipulating her captors, but us as viewers, making Michelle Fuller one of the craftiest manipulative masterminds this planet has ever seen. Well, if you've made it this far, firstly, thank you for watching, but if you could now give the video a like, possibly even leave a comment and click on that subscribe button, it will encourage that mysterious algorithm to do its thing.